There you go, Daddy, live.
Hey
We're
guys,
back. Already missed last week.
hey, I got a couple of cat stories to start. I posted a beautiful sectional. It was actually the sectional was a one-arm sofa, and it sections into a chaise lounge, if you can visualize that. And on the sofa side, the arm side, um, they have two cats in this apartment. When I picked up this furniture, you wouldn't believe the damage on this this sectional. Fur everywhere. And these two really bushy cats. What do they call those bushy cats, Patrick? Himalayans?
Kayla would have a better.
Are they Himalayans? What do they call those really bushy cats with bushy fur? I want to say Himalayan, but I'm not sure. Anyhow, they were furry and they were active. I had the sofa I had to put up on its end, and while it was on the end, the cat climbed up the sofa with its claws. And you wouldn't believe the claws on these things, and stayed up at the top of the sofa and wouldn't move. So the fellow who I'm upholstering him for he had an idea that so I upholstered the sofa on the arm of the sofa, not the sectional, but the sofa portion of it. He had me buy a carpet, and I upholstered the outside with the carpet on this. He wanted to see if the cats would just scratch this. But my experience with cats, if you guys probably know this, is that you cannot figure them out, right? Just recently, wasn't there a cat that was lost for 3 months, Patrick? Did you see
That
the
wouldn't
news?
surprise me. They seem to be able to live on their own.
Did you
Oh,
see?
I thought it was a dog.
It was a
I know,
cat.
I know a dog.
It was a cat that was living in the sofa for 3 months.
No way.
No, I'm not kidding you. The cat was lost. They couldn't find the cat. They assumed it went outside and, on Ford winter time or whatever. And then one day the guy's sitting on a sofa and he hears a meow. The cat was inside the sofa.
I mean, I guess it's a good,
And
nice, cozy place.
we love cats. and Malcolm says, cats, the upholsterer's friends, and make work creatures. And hi, greetings from Nova Scotia. That's Fern, right, Patrick?
Yep. And F door is fine.
Yeah, and Don says greetings. I'm going to be reading from Gene sent in a little while, but I want to talk more about cats and how they've really helped my business. I'm sure you guys you guys would agree. Cats do a lot of damage to upholstered furniture, and it's a good thing you have us upholsterers to redo the furniture. But anyhow, House of Nambia says hi, folks.
Nico.
Yeah, and Fern says, yes, Himalayans. I was right, Michaela. Himalayan cats. Those are the big furry cats.
There's also Maine Coon.
Maine Coon. Oh,
Those are
Maine
the
Coon.
biggest,
Are they the biggest cat?
I believe so.
And they really have sharp claws, those ones. I know. I knew somebody that had one. Um, House of Nebby says, I got a chair from Facebook Marketplace that a cat had gotten to. I broke out in hives driving it back to the workshop. So I had to get rid of it, she said. Malcolm says, I wrapped 2 sofas and 12 dining room chairs with carpet runner for a client with 11 cats.
Oh my God.
11 cats. Can you believe that? Wow. Fern says correct on the Himalayans, I guess. Yeah. So those are my cat stories. Do I have any other cat stories? Let's see. I'm not sure. I know that people love cats. But anyhow, I'm going to go to Facebook with Gene. Gene says, I've been upholstering since 2011 and a little before that, but for pro and making a living since 2011. I am located in Nashville, Arkansas. Now, I asked Jean last time, we asked where she was located, just to kind of a shout out. If you're watching us on YouTube, whether watching live or later, check out Jean. I've seen a lot. I can vouch for her. I've seen a lot of her work she's posted on Facebook, right, Patrick? She's been a top contributor on our channel, Upholstery, Broadway Upholstery, and I can vouch for her. She does great work. So she's in Nashville, Arkansas. She doesn't say the name of the company, I don't think. Well, let me keep reading. Clients picked up their 3 gray chairs and 4 slip seats for the dining room chairs and 1 slip seat for a bench. Always very glad when the clients love the work and have recommended me to others. March, the client with the 2 tub chairs will pick up the chairs they already paid for. Now I'm working on a love seat and 2 wingback chairs. It sounds like she's got a good flow to her business, which is important. And it sounds like she had completed a job, and I do this. Once the job is done, I don't mind storing it for a little while, but I do like to get paid when the work is done. And I also take 50% on the labor sometimes. It depends. It depends on how busy it is. Right now, it's kind of trend. The trend that right now is people are repairing furniture right now. So they're doing cushions, which is fine. Not upholstering cushions, but refilling cushions. I got a job today for a repair on a sofa. It was a workbench sofa that looks like the middle had collapsed. They said it was 25 years old. So I gave them two prices. So you could just kind of read the economy sometimes by how people are spending money, and right now it's a little bit they're a little tentative. So they're repairing though. You guys should always remember that if don't always focus just on reupholstering. There is a market for repairing. It's a different price point altogether. It shows that you're flexible. And I usually I will get clients if I've done a repair job. I'll still get the furniture later on. They're just not ready to spend the money at that moment. It's good to get your foot in the door. Even if it's a small job, I had somebody come in today. She had two cushions in her own fabric. It's not a huge job, but I'm always courteous and kind. I'm not gonna, say this isn't a great job. It really isn't, but especially since you got her own fabric, it takes out, some of your profit, And I don't really upcharge on the labor. I feel funny about that. I think in this case, so here's case in point. You're nice to somebody. You're not saying I don't want to do that. You got your own fabric. And by the way, it was only 44 inches, and it's a stripe to make matters worse, and it's just enough to do. She had two cushions that were welted, and she had just enough fabric. She only had like 2 yards of fabric. I said the only way I can do this with 2 yards of fabric is to waterfall the cushions with no piping. So I had to actually measure it out to make sure that I could do it based on 44 inches. So it's kind of challenging. We were talking today. Another customer was talking about how you almost have to be like an engineer sometimes when you're doing upholstery with some of the things you have to figure out. It's challenging though. And you've seen some of the YouTubes that we've done on measuring, right, Patrick?
Yeah,
Measuring fabric. And a lot of times people get stuck, like newbies who don't look at a YouTube, who don't know. They'll use the patterns for the chair that they take apart, not realizing that the patterns are actually at least 3 inches bigger than what they're looking at. So that's a common mistake that people make, and it's really hard to upholster with the. So you cut it down. If you've seen the videos, you know that you cut oversize them. You put the material on, you stretch it. It's for stretching purposes, and then you trim it. So what they're doing is they're taking the trimmed patterns and using that, and they're going to have problems with doing that. They probably learn if you're a newbie, you'll learn pretty quick that maybe you should be cutting your fabrics bigger. I cut fabrics about an inch and a half bigger than the measurement on each side, so 3 inches total. So an inch and a half, if you've seen the videos where we actually are doing work with Jimmy and myself, it seems to be enough just to hold on to the stretch to get a good stretch. And you can't overcut too. If you have too much fabric, it's hard to grab onto too much fabric. So an inch and a half seems to be the proper overage on that when you're stretching. Let me just catch up. Lee's here. Hi, y'all. I'm late. You just got in, actually. We were late. I'll tell you what happened in Boston. Major artery, if you're familiar with Boston, you guys could Google it if you want Google Maps and see what's going on. They've closed the Mass Pike. It's a huge sinkhole, Patrick, on the Mass Pike.
Yeah.
We've had some.
90, actually, Interstate 90 goes through Randy's state.
Interstate
I've driven
90,
it all the way
Randy.
across
You
the
guys out there in West. It goes all the way. Where does it stop, Patrick?
That's the highway. We take that highway all the time, all the way. It goes all the way to Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah.
So right in the beginning of I-90 in Massachusetts, there's a huge sinkhole, and they've closed down I-90, if you can believe this. This is unbelievable. It is the major artery. I would say it's the major artery east to west, at least, right, Patrick?
On a Friday evening.
So I'm trying to, on a Friday evening, I'm trying to get from Arlington, which is near Boston, and every east to west road, Route 117, Route 20, everything is just packed. And we've had problems with the ice and water, the ice and rain, ice and rain. It seems like there's been a pattern here. Has wreaked havoc. Even my front steps, right, Patrick?
Yeah. A
But
lot,
but the tunnel, the Prue Tunnel, if you're familiar with the Prudential Tunnel, it's still the I-90. A couple of weeks ago, the ceiling was falling down, wasn't it, Patrick? It would be the not the structurally, it would be just the coating, right, Patrick?
yeah.
So it wasn't like a
Probably the whole thing didn't collapse.
yeah, the building didn't collapse, but it still created a big problem. I don't know, maybe we can hear about other parts of the country experiencing this too. But Fern says, I made a multi-tier scratching post with 4 scratching post options. Dusty leaves my couches alone, laugh out loud. I think you're very lucky, Fern, that you've solved this problem, right? Fern says, sinkhole crazy. Glad you are safe. Yeah, thanks. But there's been some really weird stuff with the weather around here, right, Patrick?
Cold and hot. Typical New England weather.
So, Gene, thanks for the being the top contributor, as well as Malcolm and Fern and House of Namia, Lee's unique views. You guys, don't be afraid. Can they in the comment section advertise, Patrick, their
Yeah.
businesses?
Yeah.
Don't
They're
be afraid
posted.
to on your comments. I wouldn't be offended if you did that. Post your where you're operating from and all that stuff. That's good. Paul's here, uh, Patrick. I'm not sure if we know Paul, do
Yeah,
we? Yeah. He says he has a question. Is right Patrick also a
yeah,
master?
see, there you go.
Is
You
Patrick?
never let that one. You never let that one down.
I got to tell you, it actually brings up an important point. Patrick's been around me. He's been in the shop. He went right from a young guy. And I don't think you ever really picked it up, right, Patrick?
Well, I mean, it just wasn't. I didn't have the trouble with the upholstery.
The aptitude? Did you have the aptitude for it, or the fine
Didn't have
motor
the, yeah,
skills?
didn't have the concentration or the
Well, actually, it's a
hand
weird
skills.
combination. You guys probably can speak of this. It's a very strange combination that makes a really professional upholsterer, I think. I think, I'll be honest, I think a little ADHD helps, actually. You really have to, isn't attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? No, there's something about it. You really have to be stubborn. You have to stick to something. It's a long process. It's really, I've told you guys this before. As far as the information, it's not a lot of information to learn. I mean, you know what a webbing stretcher is. You know what a tack hammer is. You know how to use the webbing stretcher. You watch the videos. It's the skill part of it. It's skill building that's tough. That people lose patience with. I think it takes a long time to really get good. I wouldn't dissuade people from doing it if you can stick with things and just the repetitive stuff too. If you're lucky enough to be in a bigger shop, you like me. I was when I first started. I was doing all the repetitive stuff. For instance, they did a lot when I started. They did a lot in the '70s, '80s, early '80s. They did a lot of French nails, like panel nails. That was very popular, and they found that I was really good at that. So that's all I did. Like that's all I did. Like for, I don't know, a year or two. Other things occasionally too, when there weren't those things to do. But it really taught me how to concentrate, how to stay with things. The repetitive stuff's really where a lot of people actually get bored. I didn't. I had the ability not to get bored. So that's there's a quality there, and also it does require strength. I mean, I'm not going to kid you guys. Some hand strength, not to mention some physical strength. I mean, you oftentimes. I picked up a sofa. Patrick, remember that sofa we picked up the other day?
Yeah, luckily it was only going
Woo!
right into
The heaviest sofa. Maybe it has something to do with me getting older, but that was heavy,
no, I
wasn't it?
thought it was bad, too.
I swear they had on the interior of this thing. You guys know Old Ironsides here in Boston. They call that the USS Constitution, the ship that they sail once a year.
Do they take it out once a year?
They take it out once a year to turn it around, so that the starboard and the port there's a balance there. Once a year. I think it's July 4th, isn't it?
I didn't do that.
But the I just think of the timbers that were in this sofa. It was heavy. I would say it was about 400 pounds, easy. easy. So you do. There's some strength there that you need. Patrick should come on screen. He works hard too. Yeah, Fern.
I don't think we can fit in the screen together.
Yeah, you do have a big head, Patrick. I
Talk
did.
about our weight at this point.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Me?
Pat,
Look
Pat,
at you.
Patrick's head is proportionate to
Yeah.
his body.
That's what Kennedy means, right?
He's like a Q-tip, you guys.
You're the one that told me that Kennedy meant big head.
Well, there's a lot of brains to put in there. Let's see. Dawn's here helps to great sewing skills too. Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot about that. Sewing skills. So you have to have the fine ability, the fine skill, and that heavy skill. So it's a combination there, isn't there? And I'll be honest. There's a lot of shops where the upholsterers have a seamstress, and they're not as good as with the seamstress part as they are with the upholstery, and vice versa. There's some people who can do everything. I mean, I can do everything. I think good. Some things I do better. I mean, I can sew obviously a cushion. If I need to sew a cushion, but sometimes skill building takes a long time. House in Nambia. Oh, I've just did my first spring tie. I just started my first spring tie. It's 2 East Lakes. So if there's an uptick on the 5-way spring tie video, 8-way spring tie video, it's me. Patrick, that is a popular video, isn't it?
Yeah, made 2 of them.
Yeah. First says, Nambia, what are East Lakes? You guys could talk about that. Do we have a picture of an East Lake, Patrick? Or did we do an East Lake? Didn't we?
East Lake.
Yeah, we got you guys check out the YouTube. I'm pretty sure we did an East Lake.
Michelle did it.
Michelle. Yeah, it's a paid class though, isn't it, Patrick? Yeah. Be nice. LOL. She's first telling me to be nice. It's only a sign. It's only it's only a Seinfeld reference. That's all. I'll tell you the story. Elaine had a boyfriend that was a bad breaker-upper. Remember, Patrick? And they were in a restaurant before they broke up, and I guess somebody came in and threw hot water on this guy, and he was a bad breaker-upper, and I guess she wanted to break up with him, and she said, "You have a big head." He said, "Well, I don't care. You have a big head." He said to her. I go on too much, right, Patrick? All right, never mind. Dylan says, this is Facebook, right, Patrick? Dylan?
Yeah, that's a pretty cool one.
Some random old staples and books from my grandfather's upholstery shop I acquired. Cool. This stuff, is so rare. I'll hold it up. Now, can people see this? Where do they go to see this on Facebook, Patrick? Huh? On the forum. You guys check this out. This is old school, man. Old school. And sometimes these little pamphlets and booklets are really important for the history and when you're doing an antique piece to reference some of the materials that we used, older materials, and some of the replacement materials if you can't get those older materials. This is invaluable. I was wondering if Dylan did he just post the front pages of these?
Patrick? Yeah, like one thing.
I wonder if he would mind, if it's not too much work, to show us some of the interior pages on this. Is that possible for him to do that, Patrick?
Yeah.
If he's got some time and he wants just to share that, that would be great. House of Nambia says, does the East Lake class have spring tying in it, Patrick? Do you remember? Should.
I don't know if it's just a chair, right?
Well, it's I think House of Nambia. We've done over 400 videos, right, Patrick?
Yeah.
So forgive me if I don't recall completely, but most of your East Lakes, I think, have, and Malcolm, I know this. They have drop-in units. They have a metal that means, and they're not full drop-in units. They're rows of drop-in units. Like there's 3 springs on a metal bar. And they're smaller springs, if I'm not mistaken. I think Michelle's was like that. So
Jimmy's the settee had it 8-way tie, right?
Yeah, but the tops of the springs, a lot of times on the East Lake they did a 4-way tie, but I think we always recommend an 8-way tie even on the East Lake. And little things like you have to use your common sense when you're doing East Lakes. The stock on wood, most of the East Lakes is not that thick, not like that sofa that I was talking about. So you may have to just on the four-way tie use the 12-ounce tack, not 14. 12-ounce tack, because that wood rail is probably about an inch if you're lucky. And then you go use your pneumatic staple gun. Sometimes if I feel as though the 12-ounce tack is not taking the wood, is splitting the wood, I don't like that because wood dries out. I would go all with the pneumatic staple gun. Just make sure your pneumatic staple gun's working well. Make sure that you've got the 80 pounds of pressure, and make sure you're probably going to be using the big staples on that, half-inch staples. Um, I think, yeah, the biggest staples on that with your twine. You can do that with your twine. You've seen me probably on some videos. I show how to do that. Does the East Lake class have spring tie? And I answered that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I have another chair that has a drop in. So House and Ambia knows that. So the more things you do, the more skill building, the more your skill, repetitive stuff, the more furniture that you do, you're going to build your skill. I'm going to use the staple gun because the wood is old. I fill the old holes with Bondo. Yeah, great. Great. Malcolm is a great, he talks about woodworking a lot with what he does, right, Patrick? He does a lot of that. Malcolm says the last few antique I reupholstered, I used staples just as I would not do any more frame damage, even after gluing the frame back together. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about a staple, Malcolm, with those two prongs, they're very almost microscopic in some ways, really small. You compare that to the head of a tack and then the shaft of a tack, especially a 12 or a 14. Now, I will say, if you can use the 12-ounce tack that has the prong, don't use the ribbed tacks. I've never talked about this, I don't think. The 14, they sell a 14-ounce tack that's just ribbed. I don't like those. They're too thick. The 12-ounce tack with the little bars on them, the little bobs, there's two little bobs on them, I think. The reason those bobs are there is that when it goes in and you tie your twine and put the tack in, that the upward pressure of the twine on the tack doesn't pop the tack out. And that's what a professional will use. That there's a difference. So be aware that you might some of the materials that are out there aren't exactly right. So here we go on the Upholstery Show Live. A comment from Fern. She says, "Upholstery on Broadway. I'm glad you guys are safe. I can understand you being kind enough to hold onto furniture for maybe 2 weeks, but 6 months, yeah." We were talking about that. It's weather related. We had two love seats that I had covered. They were there they were finished. The customer had paid for them. She lives in Boston. She lives on the like, let's say, the 11th floor of an apartment building, and there are 12 floors. And she's getting water from her ceiling, if you can believe that. The top apartment's leaking, and obviously they didn't do. I don't know if it was vacant or not, and it leaked into her apartment. You believe that, Patrick? And that's why I couldn't deliver. And I finally, so at some point, I took one of the sofas because we have a nice storefront. We have a nice window. I took one of the sofas. I took all the plastic off. I undid the skirts and I put it in the window. And I was getting really kind of frustrated with the fact that these were around. And you lose, by the way, you do lose money. There's no doubt about it. You lose money when you it's called handling. It's called storage and handling. Both of those things cost you money. But I just couldn't charge. This is part of the problem I have with I'm not a great businessman this way. I should have probably charged, but I didn't. Anyhow, so I called the customer and say, when are we going to be done? I got one of your sofas. And then she said, well, I hope it's not getting sun damage from that. And I said, uh-oh. I said, no, I've only had it up for a week, but now that you mention it, I'm going to take it out of the window because the last thing I want is that trouble. So I had to take it out of the window. I had to package it up again, take it out of the window. Finally, Jimmy and I, Patrick, delivered it in the ice and snow and up the 11 flights. Thank God they had an elevator with 2 love seats. It's finally gone. Malcolm says, "Do you have your own YouTube channel?" Fern asking Malcolm this. Actually, if Malcolm is imitation is a great form of flattery. You know what
Yeah, told the guy. I think he had some videos.
Guess what? He says, I have a few videos. Malcolm's fine,
He's on
fine
Facebook.
upholstery. Facebook. Facebook?
I think so. I'm not sure if he sent them on YouTube.
Well, Malcolm, I had to tell you,
Sorry, Mel.
we, part of the, I think I told you guys in the beginning, Patrick and I, it was a good father and son thing to do, right, Patrick?
Yeah.
We've done a few of
Still
those.
is.
It still is, yes. And but when we first started, it was kind of goofy. You know, we were doing things like we had these cushions. Is that video still up of those cushions falling on me,
I don't
Pat?
remember what video that was from. I don't
Do-
think we ever posted it. Maybe we did.
Well, I had these big cushion pile, like a mountain of cushions, and I had a string to the right of me, and at the moment, I, you know, we were talking about it, and I pulled the cord, and all the cushions fell on me. And you know, we did things like that. We're goofing around, right? And plus, we did some serious videos, right? And then we got that call from that woman out in the Midwest. She said, you know, she uses she was using already at that time some of the videos to supplement her income to support. She was a single mother to support 2 kids. So I said to Patrick, at that point, it's been like this since then, and that was like 10 years ago, I think, Patrick. I said we need to get serious. We need to do this. If people are relying on us, we have to be a little bit more serious. Except in these, sometimes we have fun on these ones on the live show, right, Pat? I think I finished. Oh, she's without charging storage. Fern, let's catch up on Fern's comment. She's taken advantage of you. You deserve better than that. She should be paying for storage minimum. Better yet, she needs to store them somewhere else. So does it change? Does it change a little bit after I told you what she was going through from a human suffering standpoint? I guess, you know. And how far, you know, goodwill in business when you're in business? This is a good question that it brings up. You know, goodwill in business, especially small business, is really important. It really is. Like the woman who came in today, I didn't finish about the woman who came in today with the 2 cushions. Seemingly, it was a bad job. She had her own fabric, but then she said she had 2 Cravat chairs. Cravat is a very fine name in furniture that she's thinking about redoing. So you know, there you go. You know, so I like to think that, you know, the goodwill brings you work. You know, not that you do it for that reason, but Malcolm goes on YouTube and Facebook. Patrick, Malcolm has my videos are just examples of my work, not like the training that Kevin and Pat produce. Okay, and then
That's still good, though.
yeah, Fern, it's great. Fern says you can get a film coating for windows to protect them. Very easy to install. Goes on like a sticker. It's funny, Fern. This is a funny story about the window, right, Patrick?
Yeah.
One day I'm by myself and I'm trying to move a sofa, and the sofa fell through my storefront window right onto the sidewalk.
It was worth it, though. We got a full remodel
It,
out of it.
it took the window. It was a 1-pane old window from that. It was old school, you know. And the landlord was nice. He actually replaced it with a double pane, right, Patrick?
And he redid the whole front.
The whole front, and it's UV, right? It's UV protected. So we have some accidents actually ends up being good. Um, then Don says, I think a good heart matters. Yeah, I do. I think it's true in any business. I mean, I've gone into businesses where they're grouchy. I don't go back. I think, though, I'm more sensitive than other people. Are you sensitive to that, Patrick? If you go in,
Well, I mean, that's just bad business. I mean, why would you be in a bad mood?
well,
you know?
there's an episode of Seinfeld where there's a bad guy who sells soup. I won't tell you what they say.
I think everybody knows that one. It's probably the most popular
But
one.
sometimes the evil genius does get work.
It would have to be like him. It would have to be amazing.
But
work,
that's just that. I don't think that's real. I don't think anybody wants to go in a shop and be mistreated.
I mean,
That's,
it would have to be really amazing.
oh, you know, Fern says a good heart is 2 weeks storage. After that, she's taking advantage.
Yeah, I agree with her. Sounds like me. That's what I tell you all the time.
London Stitchery says, laugh out loud. London, are you in London? I'm just curious. Patrick, do you know anything about London Stitchery?
Oh, the new one.
I think
we,
that's
we
new.
were over there in England. We did meet in Upholsterer.
We were
Maybe
in
it's him.
we were in England, and where was that?
I wish I remember the name of that place.
Do you
He was a
remember
nice
what-
guy,
Do you remember what town it was?
Was it Yorkshire?
Yorkshire.
Really nice guy.
We also visited a huge cathedral in Yorkshire. Patrick's aunt lives in
I
Yorkshire,
can actually find out where that is.
an uncle. Fern says, "Oh no, I hope you were not hurt." No, just my pride. London Stitchery said, "That's how I built my biz. Small jobs that others wouldn't do." There you go. London, don't be afraid to shout out where you are and what you specialize in, etc. Elliot says, "No soup for you." 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Man. No, that
Uh,
was the market guy.
it's all in the wording. Fern says. Oh, London's in Fort Lauderdale, Patrick. London Stitchery. I like the name though, don't you?
Lucky, I'm sure the weather's great.
Yeah, I'm jealous. No ice storms in Fort Lauderdale. No
Although
sink.
they did get, remember that? They did get something.
Did they?
I don't know if Fort Lauderdale did,
Snow?
but Florida had snow.
Malcolm says 48 hours is his free limit. I have very little storage space. We don't either. I mean, when you think about Pat, we only have 500 square feet up there in our shop. And when you think about a love seat, 2 love seats together, I'm just off the top of my head, 4 times 5, 20. That's about 50 square feet. It's taken up 10%. For 6 months, it took up 10% of our floor space. That is considerable. You think about it like that. House at Namia says, I used to live in London and I miss it. My Patrick's mom was a maid in a very famous hotel before he was Patrick's mom in London, and you guys would probably know the name of it. I can't remember the name of it, but it was one of the really famous ones. They had a fire, and the staff, the help used to have the top floor of this particular hotel, and Patrick's mom tells the story of the firemen rescuing her. And she told me that they had to put a ladder in between the 2 buildings, Patrick. Did you know this?
I've never heard
Patrick's hearing this story for the first time about his mother being saved. God bless our firemen and police. We had an accident last night. Was it last night, Patrick?
No.
A very serious accident near our house. And I went out to see if I could help, but the firemen and the policemen were so good. It was a very serious accident. So they had to take his mom off over I can't remember, I want to say 10 stories on a ladder, crawling on a ladder to the next building. Oh, it was a serious fire. London says, I'm half British.
That's cool.
That's why she named her shop London Stitchery.
I
And
found the name of that shop if you want to shout them out.
what is it?
It's called Bespoke Classic. Bespoke and Classic Upholstery.
What shop are you talking about,
The one
Patrick?
in the UK.
Can you repeat that again?
BES.
BES.
BOKE and Classic Upholstery.
Did you hear that? That's in Yorkshire, right?
Yeah,
So
I forget the guy's name, but
There's a shout out. He probably doesn't even know we do
I'm
this.
glad he's still in business.
He's still in business.
Yeah.
London Stitchery says, Fort Lauderdale, I do anything that turns green.
Exactly.
London also says, Tracy is my name. Hi, Tracy. This is a nice little group we have here, Patrick.
Yeah.
For instance,
No
nice.
trolls. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Except for Malcolm. He's always very informative.
He's been very good. Nice to meet everyone that's here. My name is Fern. Hi, Fern, and everybody's saying hi. And then now let me catch up on some of this.
Jimmy left a comment for you on this. Speaking of trolls.
Oh, yeah. Molly, she's new, isn't she, on here, Patrick? Thank you. I'm actually prepping to do a complete job of the upholstery for a Model T.
Ah, cool.
Wow.
Really cool.
Wow. Now, we get asked all the time about upholstery, car upholstery. Patrick's been bugging me for years
Somebody
about
just
it.
posted about 5 posts on a forum for auto. I didn't delete it because it's still upholstery.
Sure.
Any auto upholstery could be put up.
Yeah.
Sure.
But a Model T is great.
That's different.
Antique cars are in my family. I'll explain that in a minute. So I'm so excited for the coworker of my husband. This will come in very handy. Tricks of the trade, I do appreciate. I'm transitioning from marine exclusively to auto. So a lot of the skills, Malcolm, Malcolm talks about this crossover skills. One of the best upholsterers that I knew was a carpenter, trained carpenter, trade carpenter who crossed over to upholstery. Boy, what a disadvantage! Somebody, a liberal arts, guy at 18 or 20 getting in this. That's late getting in and then becoming a professional. But what an advantage! Somebody that has those skills of crossover skills are remarkable. He was one of the best upholsterers. And then upholstery tool secret hack. I guess that was the comment that she was commenting on a video on that. I did want to get back to she's doing a Model T. So Patrick's, let's see if I can remember this. Great great grandfather McDermott Patrick was one of the engineers on the Stanley steamer.
We were just talking about.
And the Stanley steamer would be about the turn of 1901 to 1910, and steam engines were the thing. Hey, it ran on water, you guys. No oil, no electricity. And they were perfecting the steam engine at this time. And his great grandfather would be the person who gets credit, but we all know this in the family, but it's not written anywhere. He developed the cooling system within the boiler so that the boilers didn't blow up. It was some type of beveling system that cooled the metal somehow. I don't even know how to do it. That engineering. Maybe that's where we get our upholstery skills from, Patrick. Did you think of that?
That was cool.
But then what happened was the electric vehicle came. Believe it or not, there were electric vehicles, Patrick, back then.
They probably went about 2 miles an hour.
No, they were perfecting that, and then the gasoline won out on all of them. And it was probably just because there was more money or more politics. It was probably all politics of the three different types, right? The gasoline won out on all three of them. Jay
Water was so
Leno.
accessible.
Jay Leno has a couple of steam cars, Patrick. He's a collector out in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
House of Namia says auto upholstery is very different animal. Malcolm, you said that right. Patrick, when Patrick keeps bugging me about it, I said, no, you need a bay.
I love cars, so
I know, but
why.
you need at least a 2-car bay to do it, and there's not many of those. If you look into, especially where I am, they've all been converted. They're long gone, and people who are using them now are auto mechanics. They're not doing automobile upholstery. It is a different animal. House of Nambia says, I'm learning auto upholstery this year too. Good, great. I love this. If you guys want to post pictures of your work, that would be great. Yeah, Don said it was the dollars. People love their cars. People will spend. Hey, I got an idea. When your best customer in the car business, Pat, the automobile upholstery business,
Yeah.
would be a guy or a girl who has their cats in their cars.
Oh, that's short dogs even. Exactly. Look at our
We
car.
got a little off base here today.
Look at our car, for example.
People don't bring cats in cars, though. Why is that? Why don't you take your cat for a ride?
Well, they do, but they put them in crates.
But they don't put dogs in crates. Isn't that
Sounds
interesting?
like a cat would just jump out, wouldn't it? You'll survive.
I'm a little off base here. Just that image of that 11 cats that Malcolm, who somebody else did a job for the 11 cats.
You can have a customer for life.
We're getting a lot of good dialogue because of this, Patrick. Fern says, I live down the road from a junkyard. You can go with your own tool, strip parts. I'm thinking about taking seats, reupholster them, turn them into stools, office chairs. That is great, isn't it, Patrick?
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Listen, if anybody knows where there's an old steam engine that my great worked on, I'd appreciate it. But we used to have models, Patrick. These models in the family that great great grandfather, Patrick's great great great, and there were steam engine models. There must have been 3 or 4 of them that we had, I think, in our family, Patrick. I remember having my hands on these, and nobody knows where they are. Isn't that sad? I thought they were donated to a museum, and I've tried to track them down, but I couldn't find them. Malcolm says, if you take the seats in your shop, if the client has a space to store the car, but being an auto trim also includes headliner, carpet, wraps of trims, etc. Do you need a bay for that? I always felt you did. I always felt that you need to get the project in front of you and just to do it, you know. I really felt a drive-in bay with the clothes, you know. I know you don't need the underneath part, you know, but I always felt that somebody just wants to drop their car off, get it done, and then bring it and then pick it up. London says, Fern, that would be a great idea, making seats into armchairs for man caves, etc. Yeah. Contact a local historian or museum about your granddad. Yeah, I think I have. I just don't know where they went. There's actually in Maine. I'm not sure if there's still there's a Stanley Steamer museum in Maine, Patrick. I don't know if you know that. I'm not sure if they're still there, but anyhow, let's get back to. Boy, we really got off subject there, but not really. We're talking upholstery, right, Patrick, for the most part? I guess my dream would be to upholster the interior of a steam engine, a steam car. That would be cool. I would do that, Patrick.
That'd be cool.
Amazing 1800 sofa part one. That's the YouTube video. Any pictures of the sofa before it was stripped? Unfortunately, you know, we don't always get a chance to do true A to Z's on the. This is true on the free YouTube stuff. We've talked about this before. There's just not enough time in the day. Although that's why we did the A to Z, because you know we wanted people to see the entire process. But we don't have the pictures of that. Sorry. And how to upholster 1860s chair part four. Patrick has a great thumbnail on that, which is an old western town with the arrow with the chair. That's cool, Patrick. Um, and this is from Connie. She said, Do I need to both burlap and muslin?" Muslin, no. I would say the answer to that is no. Muslin was used a lot of times. I feel as though muslin uh, was used on more dainty fabric as an undercover. Sometimes with the heavy upholstery fabric, you could build everything up to the cotton and then go right over the cotton. I think a lot of times the muslin's a little overkill because you have to take a whole entire row of stapling or tacks if you're using tacks with the muslin. So you're putting two cloth layers that are tacked. But muslin is very useful on silks and light dainty fabrics like cotton cloths, and I think a lot of times that's why. But I think a lot of the use in muslin, I always felt it was a crossover. You know, when people were doing slipcover people crossing over to upholstery would take the muslin with a lot of the muslin applications with them, which I don't think is a lot of times required. So I think there's common sense, a lot of common sense that's used in upholstery. So if you have a heavy, thick fabric, or leather for that matter, do you really need a muslin liner for something like that? Now, that said, your stretching techniques have to be perfected before, and that's probably another reason why people did muslin is they wanted to tighten the batting up and everything before they put their main cover on. It's easier that way. But if you get good, we focus a lot on stretching materials, right, Patrick? We talk a lot about it, about how to pin tack and all that. So if you're good with that, I think you could skip muslin in most cases as long as the fabric is thick enough. Does that answer the question? Sorry if I went on. It's kind of exciting though. Maybe I should get a life, huh, Patrick? Patrick's going, get a life.
I
Huh?
like the
Fern says, be nice. um, what is Fern saying here? Well, first of all, Malcolm says the older the car, the more it's like the work you do. Yeah. Fern says if you come to Nova Scotia, Tadamaguchi has a motel from train cars. We stayed in the caboose. And I probably butchered that name. Do you see that name up there,
Oh,
Patrick?
I'd love to go up there.
Try to pronounce that name.
Heard it's very nice.
Try to pronounce that name.
No thanks.
It's an Indian name, obviously, Native American. We have a smudged Native American name, but that doesn't mean I can pronounce that name either. Malcolm says, I've used muslin on antiques, for sure. Yep. And Fern says, I'm impressed. Very good attempt. I'm not sure what she means by, oh, the name. So we've got 4 more. How long are we into this, Patrick? We don't like to bore people too much.
It's over an hour now. It's good because we missed last week, so gotta catch up.
Am I in an over an hour already? I haven't even gotten to the 4. There's 4 more, you guys, you two. We don't want to go too. We don't want to bore you guys. We're already over the board limit, right?
You didn't get the Jimmy's yet, did you?
A.H. Davenport repair, part 2. I realize this is 4 years old, but do you remember what happened with the Davenport after this? I'm hoping for your sake that you finished it. Do you mind telling me what it sold for, please? Price stuff is where I struggle.
Did we sell that one? I know we sold the other one.
No, that was a customer's, Patrick.
No, it wasn't.
It
No,
wasn't?
it wasn't. There was one that we sold because somebody needed the exact same one.
Well,
And then there was that. I'm not sure what we did with it.
well, listen, you guys, if you're looking to do a business where you're taking old furniture and reupholstering it and trying to resell it, don't. Because really, I don't feel there's a market there at all because of the styling. I mean, you have to hit the right customer. Might have on this one, which is very rare,
No, we
Patrick.
switched to making furniture, which we're doing now from scratch.
Well, yeah, we're doing furniture from scratch, but on this one here, on taking a piece like a stylized piece like the Davenport and upholstering it, that's another thing. You're upholstering it in a fabric that probably a customer won't. You know, it's just all the stars have to line up for this to work, and to have a buyer at the end of it with all that work that you put into it. You have to be very careful with that. I mean, I would be more inclined to put it in your window and say and sell it like, pick your own fabric kind of a thing, and make sure you get the job before you put all that work into it. Unless you're doing it for practice and to build a skill building, that's another good reason. Or do it for yourself. That's a great reason to do it. But I wouldn't go into it. There's too many resale shops out there too where people can buy. This woman said she bought a Cravat. She bought 2 Cravat chairs for $1,500, and guess what? Each one of those is worth 6,000 each, Patrick. The Cravat is an example of today's furniture that is like really on the top level. And I know I've taken them apart. They're really well done. So I hope that answers her question. I don't want to. That was from Fern. I wouldn't want to discourage somebody from doing something like that. It's actually a learning process too. So. And A.H. Davenport, this is part 1. Fern says, "Thanks for the lesson. How big was this Davenport? I think that they're about 92 inches. Certainly got your workout that day. Laugh out loud. Is there a math formula for webbing springs ratio compared to the size of furniture? That's a really good question. I got grilled on this. I had a customer who wants maybe a custom furniture, but they were asking questions. Malcolm, you'd appreciate this. And fun. They're asking questions like, "What's the compression ratio of the spring, and how far are the springs away from one another?" So you get in. It's like asking an artist, and Michaela would probably. It's kind of there's some vague somewhere like on the springs being far apart. I told her, well, we do them about 2.5 or 3 inches apart. I was guessing. It's really your eye that tells you on that. You don't want them next to one another because you don't want them clicking. So a good space in between. Nobody's ever asked me this. It's just you do it. Would be about 2.5, 3 inches, I'd say. And then the compression, I didn't know, so I said no. There are different gauge springs. I broke it down, tried to simplify because I'm not going to get into engineering that deep into engineering because I'm not an engineer. But getting into the compression, there's two types. I say springs and back, spring seats and back seats. Back seats are more like your mattress springs. This is how I talk. And then the seat springs are they're a heavier gauge to take the weight of a body. That's pretty much that's it. Certainly got to work out. Is there a math formula for webbing springs? I don't think you should overthink this, you guys. And you can. So she's also asking about webbing placement, Malcolm. Right? So webbing, you know, you need enough space in between webbing so that you can weave the webbing. You can't be right on top of the webbing because it's going to be hard to weave, especially when you start getting into the second and third and fourth side to side weave. It gets a little hard. But so you have to be separate. I would say you're separated about on the webbing is about an inch, right? Springs about 2.5 inches. Does that make any sense? But I was getting asked all these. They were peppering me with all these questions on this. What's the compression ratio of your medium foam and all this stuff? Oh, brother, I'd have to look it up for them. And she's saying ratio. She's saying webbing spring ratio compared to the size of the furniture. I don't think that makes a difference because the human body has to sit on a chair or a sofa. So I would think that it's the same. On a sofa, you might want to add, if there's wood um, framework that's even with the bottom webbing. If you're crossing over wood on the webbing, the rule is on a sofa, you might want to put an additional half webbing across that and staple that. So that's always a good rule of thumb. But the spacing is always, I think, the same. Um, Too bad you didn't have to go pro for the tying or GoPro for the time. Patrick, do GoPros? GoPros, we tried that, didn't we? I don't think it works as well.
It worked.
It's hard. It's the quality isn't there, is it?
It didn't do it right. Or Malcolm told us the right way to do it.
Yeah. Let me catch up with some of the. Elliot says reupholstering large piece on spec is a good reason to take it to muslin. Then the customer should choose the cover. That's actually very nice, Elliot. It gives the customer a visual because the customers don't do the visual very well. You have to kind of lead them on there. Fern says she's enjoying the conversation. Your pronouncement was very close on the Tatamagucha. I only take custom jobs, Don says. Malcolm says, excellent ideas. Fern says, how do you work around a new material with damage in the weave when you are limited on the fabric? When I was sewing on limited fabric, I had the problem. Yeah. It's funny. I'm just going to say it. Patrick's probably going to be mad at me. I don't like to get into, religion, but I love my faith. I'm Catholic. And there's actually, if you guys know the story of Juan Diego and Our Lady of Guadalupe, and the reason I bring it up because it's about fiber and it's about damage in the fiber that Fern is talking about. And I believe that so the story, short story, is that Juan Diego was a half Indian. He was a mulatto, and he saw a vision of the Our Lady, and he had to take it to the bishop in his tilma, which was an old material that they use, a plant-based material that the Mexicans at that time wore as a shawl type thing. He gathered some flowers and took the flowers to the bishop, and when he opened his tilma, had the image of the Our Lady on it. And the reason I'm bringing this up now, it's related to what Fern said, that there was a big seam on the tilma. By the way, this tilma could still be seen after 500 years, and this is also related to upholstery. The material that was used, the plant-based material, the clothing, is only a 10-year shelf life, but they still have this hanging in a huge basilica in Mexico City, and you can still see it. You can still see the image. It was made on this tilma, and the reason this is related here is because one of the seams was used as in the image. Somehow I can't remember exactly how it was used. God used it to in the image. So you guys check it out. Don't take my word for it, but Google it.
Even the big box stores can make some of the last 500 years.
No, it's a 500.
We might be able to. even go that far.
So how do I? We're not gods. We're not God, but how do you work around damage? I've done it. You have a conversation with the client, certainly. By the way, you can't go to a client with the first run fabric that they paid for and say, by the way, your fabric came in damaged. Would you mind if I use it here? No, you can't do that. I think what you're talking about is COM, or customer's own material. You have a good conversation with the client, and just you can illustrate. We have a great illustrator on staff now. Her name is Michaela. She could illustrate, if that problem came into my shop, we could do an illustration and show people exactly how it will look through an illustration. Right, Michaela? She says. And Fern, this is here's a comment from this troll that we got last week. It says, "Where's the real star, Jimmy?" It says 2:18. I don't think that's a Bible verse. I know 3:16, but 2:18. Well, you guys look it up. That's what Jimmy has there. That's the time, right, Patrick?
Gotta get him back at some of these.
Oh yeah, everybody. Well, he wants himself back. And the last comment here on YouTube would be from Fern, and this is on the basics of fabric. I'm in the upcycling business. I recently asked on your live show about using a loved one's clothing as a memorial piece. Did you hear that, Patrick?
Somebody did that in one of our classes, right? It wasn't a loved one. They used remember that Marilyn Monroe? That woman did.
Patrick thought it was crazy, which I totally am, because normal is no fun. Here's a link to an awesome furniture design using material cut from fabric. Oh, cool. She linked it if you guys want to see that.
Was that a shirt that woman used, or was it fabric? Remember that?
I'm not sure, but you think about fiber is a big part of our lives now that I think about it. That's a no-brainer, but really.
I'd like to see how well that held up. I doubt it.
Well,
she was sitting on it every day. I doubt that.
Well, actually, you know what, Patrick's a good point. Clothing wouldn't. I wonder how many double rubs the shirt has. Maybe somebody out there will know if they Google it.
Oh, jean jacket would be good, right?
How do you work around that's for Malcolm says it all comes down to the butt test. I test out my work after roughing it in the foam, etc., before finishing, just to make sure it's comfortable. Yeah, that's true, Malcolm. I do that too. And big reason to do that too. If you sit on a piece of furniture and there's a squeak, even if the squeak means nothing, it means everything to a customer. They will not accept something that squeaks. And that's back to the spring placement. So Fern is very smart asking these questions, because I knew somebody that, now that I think of it, that tied springs really close to one another. And so when you sat down, if you have an overlap, it makes this clicking sound. And it's horrible. Wasn't there a pirate a story of Moby Dick or something like that, Patrick, where the what's that story with the?
I have no idea.
You know what I mean. Michaela knows what I mean. The clock, the ticking. It all comes down to the butt test. Malcolm says. Don says, I remember seeing a wingback chair made of neckties. Oh, she just gave me a good idea.
Wow, that's a decent amount of them.
Yeah. Maybe we should do a novelty piece for the shop. Now that this novelty piece would probably sell, rather than getting back to the Davenport somebody asked about upholstering furniture. Maybe the way to do it is to go with the novelty end of things. That might have a chance of selling more than just a basic piece of furniture.
Yeah, what about human skin? Use that.
Oh, Patrick, that's not good.
That was awful.
Well, forgive Patrick, because he might not know some of the history there. So.
Oh, you're kidding! Don't tell me they actually did that. You got to be kidding me. When do they do this in medieval time?
God bless us. Patrick has a click on the link. Patrick has to click on the link. Laugh out loud.
Hold on a minute.
No, please don't go into it. Don't go into it. You'd be better. Don't.
They made furniture.
No, don't even.
That's
a very touchy subject for me, because my mentors were affected by that. I'll talk to you guys later about it. I'll talk to you later about it, Patrick. Bob Fern says, now I have a mental image of grown men squirming on furniture. I think this might be a good
Well, I'm
place to.
squirming now. If you
This
told me that.
this might be a good place to end this. But history is tied in. I mean, on a serious note, history is really tied in. Michaela at the shop in Arlington has done some of our famous pieces. So we've done Napoleon's chair, and Napoleon's chair that was next to him on his deathbed. It was the actual chair. We've done H.R. Haldeman's sofa. We've
I haven't
done
had one in a while though.
John Belushi. We still have that sofa. That's kind of a sad story. Lady Diane's chair, right, Patrick?
Yeah.
What were the other ones? Johnny Cash,
Uh,
Johnny Cash sofa, and
was it?
there's one more that I can't remember. But when you look at history, our furniture is definitely tied into human history for sure. I mean, the first upholstered. You guys know who the first upholsterer was? A caveman who took his fur and threw it on a rock, right, Patrick?
Crazy. I guess you could consider that.
We really got off base
No,
today.
I bet you they made it out of sticks. Then they put it on.
No sticks. No, it was a rock and a fur. Come on, they weren't that sophisticated. I think Malcolm, when he came along. No, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, Fern says, remember the skirts too. Dawn, I saw a necktie on furniture and a skirt. Fern says, when will you do the next live show, Patrick?
Next week we should be back on track.
Next week we should be back on
Rest of
track,
the
you
holiday
guys.
again.
Well, this has been a riot. You guys have added so much with your comments, and I appreciate it. And hopefully, when people look at this again, it's not boring. Maybe it'll keep relative over time. Who knows? We like to all be relative.
And I have a lot of research to do, I guess, after this.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you're innocent. You're innocent.
Michaela, do you know what he's talking about?
No, let's not
Exactly. I guarantee you not many people
I'll
know
talk
what
later.
the heck you're talking about.
Yes, they do. The older people would know. But anyhow, you guys, we'll see you next time, all right?
All right, bye,
Thanks.
guys. See you next week.
Bye.
If I can get it to shut off. There we go.